Now, you know, at one time, Ireland was populated mostly by giants. And the biggest and the baddest giant of all went by the name of Cuchulain. And he was so mean. He walked around the island picking fights with all the other giants. And he eventually drove every giant off the island except for one. And the name of that giant was Finn McCool. Now, Finn had a secret to staying away from the giant. He lived way up on a mountaintop with his wife Una. They would sit out on the porch, and when they heard the giant coming, Finn would scurry down the side and hide in the woods. Well, one day, Finn and Una were sitting out on their porch. When off in the distance, they heard a thumping. Boom, 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 boom. Finn looked at his wife. Boom, Una, boom. He's too close. Boom, I can't get away this time. Let me think, Finn. Let me think, Finn. Let me think. She said, all right, do as I say, and we'll be able to avoid him. We'll deal with him once and for all. How do we do that? She looked at Finn and said, Finn, bring me two skillets, and bring them back to me. She said, and then I want you to get some old baby clothes, and I want you to pull them onto you. I know you're way too big, but I want you to pull in them, and then I want you to squeeze into your old cradle. She goes, by the way, she said, where does a giant get his strength? And Finn said, it's in his thumb. He twirls his thumb around 3 times, and that gives him his enormous strength. All right, said Una, do as I say. Well, Finn did what Una said, and he brought back 2 frying pans, and Una began to make 3 cakes. And in 2 of the cakes, there was a frying pan. It was wrapped tightly inside the cake. And the 3rd cake was a normal cake. Well, Finn put on his old baby clothes, and he crawled into that cradle and pulled the blanket up. The thumping came closer. Boom, boom, boom. There was a knock on the door. Bam, 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 bam. Una walked to the door and opened it very slowly. And she was looking directly at 2 big, hairy knees. Cuchulain bent down and he saw his ugly, bearded face staring at her. Is this the house of Finn McCool? Una replied, yes, it is. But he's not home right now. Where did he go? He went down the side of the mountain to pick a fight with some pipsqueak that he referred to as Cuchulain. No, he's not, because I'm Cuchulain, and I'll wait for him right here. Well, you have a bit of a wait. Would you like something to drink? Yes, I'm very thirsty. I'll make you some tea. That would be great. But first you have to get the water. Where am I to find the water? Go around the side of the house and there's a big boulder. Lift up the boulder, and underneath that boulder there's a spring, and you can take my tea kettle and get some water. All right, said the giant. He walked around the side and saw the boulder. This is a mighty big boulder, he said. Well, Finn does it every morning and every evening, so I would imagine you could do it too. Well, Cuchulain went over and he put 2 big arms around the rock, and he twirled his finger 3 times. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And he lifted up the boulder. And put it to his side. And out from underneath the boulder came the spring water. He took the tea kettle and dipped it in, went back to the boulder, and dropped it on the water. He walked back. Whew, he said. Oh, he said, that was a lot of work. Well, he handed Una the kettle, and Una said, whew, it's hot in here. She said, you wouldn't mind picking up the house and turning it into the breeze, would you? What? Finn does it every morning. Would you do it for me? All right, said the giant. He walked around to the house, put one arm around one side, the other arm around the other, and lifted the house up. A breeze immediately came in through the windows and the door. Now Finn, He was in his cradle just shaking up a storm. Ooh, he said, this guy can pick up that boulder. I never could imagine picking that. And he just picked up the whole house. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then he took some deep breaths and calmed himself. Now the giant had walked in and squeezed through the front door of the house and was sitting. He goes, oh, this tea is good. He goes, but are those cakes that you're baking? Una said, yes. Would you like one? So she picked up one of the cakes and handed it to the giant. He held it up to his nose. Ah, he said, this smells good. And he went to take a bite. He goes, Musha! Oh, this cake is solid as a rock. He had to spit out a tooth. Oh, she said, well, that's Finn's favorite cake. Here, try the other one. She picked up the other cake and gave it to the giant. He said, oh, this smells better. He went to take a bite. Oh, he said, oh, this cake is still hard as a rock. And he spat out another tooth. She said, oh my, she said, why, that's the baby's favorite cake. I can't believe that you cannot eat it. The giant looked over in the corner, and there was Finn in the cradle. And he opened his mouth. Cake! Well, Una picked up the third cake. She took it over to little Finn, put it in his cradle, and Finn proceeded to eat the entire cake. Ah! Baby like cake! The giant looked down. He said, ooh. Finally, Finn lifted his head back and went, Cake! The giant looked down at the baby and said, what a set of lungs he has on him! Una said, that's nothing, she said. Not only can her father pick up this house, lift up the boulder, but he can yell so loud you can hear him all the way to Argentina. Yeah! Well, Cuchulain looked at the baby, looked at Una, and said, oh, my Lord, he said, if he can pick up a house, scream so loud, lift a boulder, he's easily my match in a fight. I'm just going to take off, all right? And Una said, no, not yet. She said, come a little bit closer. She said, check out the baby's teeth. They're big. Well, the giant looked down on Finn and said, yes, the baby has big teeth. Yes, I'm going to go now, okay? No, she said. Why don't you stick your hand in the baby's mouth and feel his teeth? No, I do not need to do that. No. Why? Are you scared? Go ahead. So Finn opened his mouth. And the giant began to reach into the baby's mouth. He went, oh. And then finally, Cuchulain stuck his entire hand in the baby's mouth. His hand was in up to his wrist. He began to move his fingers around Finn's teeth and said, yes, he has big teeth. Yeah. Now I'm going to pull my hand. Finn bit down as hard as he could on that giant's hand, and he chewed on a finger. The giant opened his mouth. The giant pulled his hand out of Finn's mouth. Oh! He goes, oh! He flipped his hand back and forth. He looked at his hand, and he was missing something. He was missing his thumb, where his power came from. And when he saw that thumb, he went, ah! And he began to get smaller and smaller and smaller until he was as big as a mouse on the floor. And he looked up at Finn and Una and let out a, ah! And he jumped up and ran out through the parlor. He ran down the steps into the woods. And Finn and Una never saw that giant ever again. Now, there are many versions of this story. My version came from this book here. It's called Celtic Myths and Legends. But if you'll come visit us, we can give you a number of versions of this story and also other Irish stories. Thank you.